Now, listen up. 3, 2, 1. It's showtime. That's great.
This is ridiculous.
99.3 The Truth.
You can't handle the truth right now.
Ooh.
That was the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Let's do it.
Hit it. It's time for Mac's World.
And here we go.
Everybody, let's get it started. Let's get it started.
Call Mac 244-0077 or text 809-0993.
It's showtime, everybody! Showtime!
Exclusively on 99.3 The Truth.
All right, 6 minutes after 4 o'clock on the 10th day of May in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is Mac's World Live on a Tuesday afternoon. As always on Tuesday, we have a special co-host. Tom Coates is in the house, as Tom is here every Tuesday, and we are awaiting a call from a insider inside of politics, a young man by the name of Ryan. And Ryan ran Mitt Romney's I shouldn't say ran. He was a major part of Mitt Romney's campaign in Iowa a few years ago, and most recently has been Ben Carson's frontman in Iowa. And he is currently in Washington, D.C., and we're hoping, as it was any radio interview, you just hope they remembered and that they call. And so we hope to have him on here any minute. All right, Governor Terry Branstad signed a heavily symbolic bill today that prohibits states' funds, that'd be Iowa state funds, your tax dollars, from being directly invested in companies that boycott Israel. Have you heard about this?
I have. Very appropriate.
House File 2331 is intended to counter efforts of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions BDS movement. A host of Palestinian political groups, unions, and others began this group in 2005 to encourage companies and government entities to boycott goods produced in Israel and divest from financial holdings there. This would be pro-Palestinian, pro-terrorist organization. The legislation passed on the House and on the Senate, and Terry Branstad wanted to sign it and just kind of give his 2 cents that he absolutely is for that. So wanted you folks to know that that's one of the things your governor's doing.
Well, Mac, and did you know that, that Obama and his minions have been worrying that we would see a backlash against Muslims in this country, and the hateful rhetoric coming from places like Donald Trump would generate an anti-Muslim backlash. And yet, according to the FBI figures released, I read them today, 57% of the racially and religious generated crimes against individuals are coming against the Jews in this country. It's ramping up. Only 17% of the hate crimes were directed against Muslims. So the ones that are really getting the backlash, and it's increasing, are the Jews and the nation of Israel. And we have never seen an administration as anti-Israel as this particular one. And so I applaud Governor Branstad for his actions today. You think, Frank?
Well, you'll find people out there, Bob, that'll say, or Tom, that'll say just the opposite, that Obama, he's the greatest friend Israel ever had. I say
there's no Jew that says that anywhere.
There's no evidence to that, Frank. I mean, he has personal antipathy towards Netanyahu. He has disdain towards the nation of Israel.
Let me go on the record here on the 10th day of May in 2016. I don't know how much longer I'll be on this earth. But, Frank, there will be a day when history is written truthfully about the fact that Barack Obama was a Muslim, and he absolutely set this country up for this incredible invasion that they did a Trojan war horse, calling it Syrian refugees. Mm-hmm. And because of that, it is believed by some people there are ISIS or ISIL groups in every state in the United States.
Well, that's not far-fetched, because Michelle said right off the bat that it was the first time she'd ever been proud of her country when they basically nominated Obama. And I've said on this show a couple of times, maybe on the phone, that I think he, at minimum, is a terrorist sympathizer. And at maximum, he's an anti-Semite.
Well, when you don't read about this, and we're not even talking about the Syrian refugees yet. We're talking about close to 200,000 Muslims that have been brought into this country plus in the last few years under Obama, very quietly, under and non-properly vetted circumstances. He is bringing them in, just like we're now having some of the biggest flood of Central Americans coming across our border. And how many of those are embedded with Muslim terrorists? We don't know that either.
So if he sat in a church pew listening to somebody saying that GD America and it's time for America's chickens to come home to roost, is this his effort to do exactly what the pastor wanted and take America down to size?
Yeah, it's funny that Obama asked, in fact, he commanded the press corps the other day to properly vet Trump. This is a serious business, and this is a big position. They never vetted this guy, the Reverend Wright that you're quoting right there, his associations with past terrorists, Bill Ayers and others, his Hillary's camp raised the issue to begin with about where he was born in his own lineage. It looks more like Frank Marshall Davis likely was the father. They never vetted any aspect. Radical agenda. I mentioned at Illinois when he was a state senator supporting even post-birth abortions. So there was no vetting done for the American people. They thought they were getting a nice, as Biden called it, a clean, articulate black man who was nothing more than a mender of racial fences. We got just the opposite, Frank.
But Tom, if you asked those questions or you presented those questions during the campaign or even now, you're called a racist.
Of course,
well,
by the liberal media.
Here's what I hope. I hope that Trump goes out and finally gets the information that we know is out there.
Yeah.
You know, when a man goes through a university and gets a law degree and is supposedly the head of the law review, but nobody remembers him, and his records are completely sealed.
Another good point.
I hope Trump gets and here's why I'm saying Trump, because then he can say, and Hillary knew it. She knew it. And yet she allowed this to happen to this country. What is she going to allow when she's the president?
But it was absolutely a proven fact that her opposition research is the ones that dug up the information about his supposed citizenship. She was going to take that all the way to the convention, and that's what she was going to hammer those superdelegates with. And somebody got the better of her and told her, if you do that, you'll rip this party in two. And that's exactly the ammo she was going to take and clobber him over the head with.
Frank, I think this is this kind of an unholy relationship. I mean, the Obamas and the Clintons don't like each other. We know that.
Yeah.
But I think there's all sorts of things. Benghazi, when she talked to Bill the night that she got the call from Barack Obama that we're going with the story that it's a video, Bill said that American people never buy it. But if you go out and step down and he is defeated for his reelection, your name is going to be mud. You can't get elected dog catcher after this. Right. And so she said, then I'll go along with it. And she lied to the American public. It's about a video. So these kind of things, this is probably also why Obama will not allow her to be indicted, guys. Yeah. Not just because he wants an heir apparent for the Obama legacy, also because if he allows her to be indicted, they likely have enough mud on him that they can sling it for a long time. That Clinton crime family is not going to be without bullets in that gun.
You know there are issues with the FBI Filegate, clearly. And they're not beyond digging up every opposition negative research they can find on anybody. So, yeah, they probably got some goods on Obama, and Obama's got some goods on them. But I think Trump, in the end's got the goods on both of them.
Well, we'll see. I hope you're right on that last statement. I think it's clear, I think, that the Trump's got some opportunities to expose some darkness that the American public has been denied all of these years.
Well, and if you think about the way Trump has run this campaign, I don't know why in heaven's name we'd ever believe he won't uncover that type of stuff. He is fearless. He is not laden to the hand of anyone in the Republic or Democratic Party. I think when he starts laying this stuff out with Hillary Clinton, I think she's going to get stopped dead in her tracks. Or maybe I hope she stopped dead in her tracks.
Well, the bigger investigation by the FBI is how she used her power of Secretary of State and Bill Clinton traveling around making speeches for foreign countries, the uranium thing that sold the uranium mine to Russia, and Russia now owns most of our uranium. I think that's going to be the bigger scandal, is the fact that she was using her influence and influence peddling
with companies and countries that had business in front of the State Department. You're exactly right, and they'd made millions and millions of dollars in bogus speaking fees. The one country, was it Dubai or it was similar, that wanted special dispensation on an airport that very few countries in this world have with us. It was up in front of the State Department. They paid Bill Clinton 2 times, a total of $1 million for some 20-minute speech that he gave, and right after that, they were granted the dispensation from the State Department they wanted.
And Bernie Sanders ought to go for the kill on this, but you just hound her on releasing these not memoirs. That's not the word, but the transcripts of those speeches. Yes. He says, these speeches, they pay you multiple thousands of dollars for these speeches. They must be great speeches.
What they offered, and no, it's not what they offered. Their standard speaking was far less, but she and her people demanded far more.
And the people that's got the richest in the country under the Obama administration is Wall Street. Exactly who he was supposed to go after and who she says she's going to go after. It's a bunch of baloney.
Oh, biggest bunch of baloney you ever did see.
Well, I'm glad you two are getting along so well today. This is just a love fest, isn't it, Bob?
Listen, I made him right before he stepped in the studio. That's what turned the tide for this day.
All right, when we come back after this break, Ryan Rhodes is his name. He is a I'm going to let him determine the name. I would call him a political strategist. But we'll get his official title. After spending a couple of years with Mitt Romney in Iowa, he then spent the same amount of time with Dr. Ben Carson. And Ryan is going to give us an opportunity to peek, just get the camel nose under the tent, because I want to know how the sausage is made in Washington. The behind the scenes of a campaign in Iowa from an Iowan. That's coming up next, live right here in Max World Live. Thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you on The Truth. 99.3. Yep, I said the truth.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi. My name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza, and it's got Graziano sausage!
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
And they had to print a retraction.
21 minutes after 4:21 on the 10th day of May in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy. I want to go to the phones now where our special guest is standing by. Ryan Rhodes, a senior Republican strategist, previously in the Ben Carson campaign here of late, and then in the last cycle, he worked with Mitt Romney, and I want to understand more about what this means, so we welcome Ryan to the show. Ryan, how are you?
Good. Quick correction. I did some general election kind of side stuff with the 2012 presidential, but I was not a Romney advisor or anything sort. So. Okay,
so tell me that again. You were what during that campaign?
I did some event work with them, and I was working with some other groups, but I was not actually on the Romney campaign.
Okay, but you were a senior strategist for Ben Carson.
Yes, I was.
All right. And you're in Washington now. How's the weather out there?
It's actually pretty nice. It was a little cold last week. So.
Well, I think it's always cold in Washington. It's all those Democrats. You know, there's no the hot air that comes out of the Democrats is cold as ice. Well, anyway.
That's probably true, but there's a lot of hot air coming out of all sides out here.
All right. So, where are you from originally? Are you from Iowa?
I am from Iowa. I still hop back and forth, but right now I'm working on some things out here in D.C. related to the upcoming election, and particularly also some down ballot races. So.
Okay, I want you to do me a favor. See if you can pull your mouth away from your phone just a little bit, because we're kind of getting a little garble, and usually that sounds like Frank when he's got his mouth too close to the phone.
Oh, no problem. Is this better?
Yes, that is much better. Thank you. So what's the one thing that nobody knows about a campaign, about a presidential campaign in Iowa? What's the one thing that if we could peel the layers back, Iowans would go, "You've got to be kidding me"?
You know, I don't think it's necessarily just about the one thing that you got to be kidding me, but I think something that people don't necessarily pay attention to is just how much even what goes on in Iowa sometimes is dictated by a lot of the brokering and the deals that end up happening in Washington, where somebody either backs off or gets out and sends all their people over to the other guy, or even if they don't endorse, they're pushing it that way. Or just the fact that sometimes, and you saw it a little bit towards the end with the so-called Kasich and Cruz team up, where some of the other candidates are taking their idea, okay, we're going to team up simply to go undercut this person because he's the front runner, and so we figure we'll have another shot. I think that's a big thing, is behind the scenes there's a lot of really pushing articles out, whether it's the nasty stuff sometimes you read about a candidate usually wasn't the media doing their job. It was another candidate's opposition research file.
Ryan Rhodes is our guest, senior Republican strategist in presidential campaigns.
Hey, Ryan, are you free to talk about the Romney campaign the last time?
I can talk about it. I wasn't in it, but yeah.
Well, my thought is that I know both sides does opposition research on the other side, and both sides does opposition research on their own side. And I'm of the mind that the Republicans were trying to kind of foist Romney on us. We kept telling them here in Iowa by the people we were selecting. First, we'd look at Herman Cain. Then we'd look at Rick Santorum. Then we'd look at Newt Gingrich, Rick Perry, etc. And they all had their time in the sun, and one by one they got taken out. And I feel they got taken out by the Romney campaign. Would I be wrong in thinking that? Is that too sarcastic in your point of view, that the Republicans were taking out their own side, trying to whittle it down to the guy they really wanted to run all along? And, of course, the Obamas wanted to run against Romney anyway, because they had the whole 99%, 1% thing set up against Romney, the out-of-touch rich guy. So both sides, in essence, got the guy they wanted, and I think that kind of stinks.
Well, I think you get a lot of that. I mean, at the end of the day, Mitt Romney wanted to win, and to win, since he never was going to get that plurality he needed early on, it was going to mean going after and taking out opponents. I mean, we saw that over and over. We especially saw that really in an even more public format with Newt Gingrich in Florida, where they said, the super PACs attacked, and they said, "Oh, we have no control over this." But very clearly, as we've seen, they may not be able to call the super PAC up, but they know what's going on. A lot of the groundwork's been laid, and there is a close reliance on super PACs and on kind of almost shadow strategists, if you will, in 2012 and 2016, and you seem to be seeing that even more moving forward.
Ryan Rhodes is our guest today in Mac's World. He's a senior Republican strategist for presidential campaigns, born and raised in Iowa.
Hi, Ryan. Tom Coates here.
Hi.
Question that I've got. You're watching this thing transpire, and you're seeing every day the media put out that Donald Trump can't possibly even dream of beating Hillary Clinton. She's a Goliath. Now, we get three key swing state polls out in the last 24, 48 hours. We've got Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Florida. Two of them virtually have them at a tie, and I think Ohio has Trump enough ahead. It's just outside maybe the margin of error. That's of interest, and also that when they do the polls, they have shown, I just saw this today, that there are just as many Democrats that say that they will not vote for Hillary Clinton as Republicans say they will not vote for Donald Trump, and yet we don't read one word of this in the media, and so the people assume that the Democrats are going to come together and sing Kumbaya, but those exit polls and the polling that they've done do not show the Democrats any more unified than the Republicans. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's a good point. I think the truth is I don't think there's going to be any side coming together and singing Kumbaya as a whole this time. We've seen that with, you see that with the Never Trump. You see that with, I think there's going to be a lot of Never Hillary people that were former Bernie people. You also notice one of the key proponents of a lot of the Bernie people is an upset, them being upset with the banks, upset with even certain government things. Now, I think their solution is wrong and everything, but what the general consensus is they may label a bank or a government or something else an outside boogeyman. The idea is that they don't feel like they have control, that they feel like there's somebody controlling Hillary and not Bernie. People felt like there was somebody controlling other figures and not Trump. So that idea that one can be controlled and one can't actually, I think, fuels a narrative that whether you're a Republican or Democrat, it throws it out the window. And I don't think while those polls are good, I don't think any poll saying any which thing can really be taken all that valid right now, because Trump, as you saw in the Republican primary and potentially in the general election, they don't matter to him. I mean, they matter when he can go out and trumpet them, but he'll always go up and say, I'm doing better, and he's one of the few people that has demonstrated that he can actually change a negative poll in something that has really never happened when somebody's so far underwater as he originally was.
Taking off on that question, do you think polls sometimes are used, especially on the Democrat side, for voter suppression? In other words, hey, Hillary's just going to roll, so don't even bother coming out. Do you think that is happening or has happened?
Yeah, I think that happens a lot. I think people get this idea, but even as we saw with some of the Trump stuff, I think there's people, there a set of his supporters, and he really didn't win the primary off singularly conservative Republican voters. he won off a lot of a lot of Democrats coming out as well in areas where there were open primaries. So I think that's really something where, in Trump's case, while I think he can tout the polls and say I'm winning big, I don't think it has the same effect on the people if Clinton comes out and says, "Look, I'm winning," because I think people have this natural fear of the Clintons, and rightly so. You're going to see it. You saw it today with the Benghazi video that Trump put out. Unlike some of the Republican candidates who have always hammered their opponents or tried to undercut them in the primaries and then gone soft on the Democrats, I don't think you're going to see that from Trump. And to some extent, that is because he's not really working on a bunch of political advisors so much, nor does he have some ideology that he's going to just focus on advancing. I think he's going to systematically try to tear Hillary Clinton apart.
Ryan Rhodes is our guest. He's a senior Republican strategist, born and raised in Iowa, living in Washington. I don't want you to tell me something that I already know. Who is the best candidate for Donald Trump in the VP seat?
I mean, I have my.
That's what I want. I want to know what Ryan thinks.
I think in spite of everything, I think you need a few things. I think one, you need somebody he actually trusts, and that list is and respects, and that list is very, very short. Something I've said is that you'll notice something very different when Ben endorsed him. You notice that Donald actually let Ben have the full stage. If you go back and look at all the other people, it was generally sharing the stage as if, see, this is my new trophy. But I think he had such a respect that Ben gave him the stage, and then Donald gave Ben the stage as a whole to say what he was going to say, and then go back and forth. And I think you're seeing that as it progresses. And I actually believe, despite and while Ben doesn't want it, is not seeking it, and has no intention of doing that, I actually think that's the best choice he could bring up. Because it shows he is going to respect evangelicals. It shows Ben's always been strong on life. He's been strong on other issues across the board, and I think he's also someone that brings in a soft hand to be able to actually go and negotiate with people that may, be turned off by some of the original brashness. Hence why I think you're seeing the meeting with Carson and Paul Ryan before you see the Trump-Ryan meeting.
Picking up on that line of thought, do you think he would get to the point of thinking about the demographics of it, a woman, an Hispanic, a black, or like you say, it has to be someone he trusts?
Well, I think it has to be someone he trusts, but in Carson's case, he also happens to fit that demographic. He's arguably the most widely respected figure out there, period, from both sides. Even Democrats and independents really, really like Ben. And so I think feeling that somebody like that can be on the ticket, sometimes it's kind of like when you have, if you have somebody that softens them up, whether Ann Romney in some cases came out softened up for Mitt, or even once Michelle had the makeover before, and she went out and she became a fun side of Barack. So people it was trying to make them like her, so that they would go, oh, this lady couldn't have married a horrible person. So I think you have that dynamic going on as well to some extent in the VP hunt, and I do think Ben fits all those roles. I don't know that he's there, but I think it's something that can fit those roles, can be considered, and Ben can go into areas that nobody else can go into, the same as certain other people could.
All right, Ryan, I appreciate your time today. Sorry we got in late. We'd love to have you on again some other time, especially when you come back to Iowa. Love to have you in the studio for the whole hour. All right, Ryan Rhodes, Republican senior Republican strategist. Man, that guy knows his stuff. All right, when we come back, the Des Moines Register says faith-based recovery programs don't work. Let's talk about that on day 2193.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer. I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs,
And I'm the service manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, 22 minutes before the top of the hour, 4:38, 10th day of May in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Now, I've sat back kind of silently the last few days. Kind of wanted Tom to come on and help me with this. Lee Rude from the Des Moines Register has a, what do you call it, a series of events or a series of articles or something like that?
Well, it started on Saturday, Mac. Front page Saturday, front page Sunday, which is their most read edition by far, and then a third article today starting on page 3 that was also fairly extensive, this time attacking Governor Branstad, all on faith-based recovery programs.
Yeah, recovery as in drugs and alcohol. All right. The whole other conversation about counseling for transgenders or people who believe that they may be gay and that not allowing faith-based counseling, that's just... I don't get that.
That's next week, I guess.
Is that next week? I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I mean... There's either this group of demons who have human skin on, whose sole goal is to wipe out God on the earth, or man, there's a bunch of humans that have just lost it.
Well, they're in rebellion. We've talked about this before, and Lee Rude, Mac, you know this, and I'll mention to your listeners. Many years ago, she took a aim at me on a front page piece that was scurrilous. It was lacking of facts. It was a slanderous, libelous attack on me that we quickly got the Register to apologize for, run a retraction, and allow me to run a full-page, unedited op-ed piece to set the record straight. If not, I'd probably be a lot lot richer today than I am because we'd have had some of their money in my pocket. I have moved on. I've forgiven the woman. She lost her husband a few years ago. I was told at the time that she was far left. She was close with the CCI, the group that comes out and demonstrates every time a conservative comes to town.
Yeah.
And I've moved on, but she apparently is not changed from her ideology. This is nothing but a secular left-wing attack on very successful programs, and today she took her third shot, including Governor Branstad. Now, when Governor Branstad left in his first series of terms around 1999, he invited I and my wife and some other people over to Colfax to Teen Challenge. Mac, have you visited Teen Challenge?
Oh, yeah. I'm very familiar with that.
Okay. And that was my first experience. I was very impressed with what we saw. They've grown some since then, and they have tremendous success rates over there. Now, what Lee, I think, guys, now, Frank, you've been reading the article in the minutes. Bob, you heard about it. Mac, you've read it. I think to boil it down, what she really wants is to put state and federal bureaucrats and regulations on top of these faith-based programs. She is very upset that she does not want them to be able to have their own show. She doesn't want them to be able to pull people off these prescription and non-prescription drugs, and she resents the idea that they project that God can heal people and bring them away from their addictions. Mac, I'm boiling it down, but I think that's the angle. She has antipathy for faith-based programs.
But if faith or the funny papers or blue shirts with red ties can get a person sober and healed, why does she care?
Because you mentioned it early. There are many people in our society, and many of them are in positions of power, politics, education, media, that have a great deal of anger and hatred towards God and anything that comes close to God, whether it's a church, whether it's a very successful ministry like this. This is something that is endemic to, unfortunately, people that too often sit in positions of power.
Hey, Tom.
And Frank, you know what I'm talking about.
Do you think the pharmaceuticals would have any vested interest in this at all? I mean, clearly, if God is the natural physician, the natural counselor, the natural healer, I don't think anybody should go off drugs cold turkey, but I think they should be weaned down to a point where they can go off. That's not going to fly with the pharmaceuticals, is it? Because they want you to be on Prozac. They want you to be
about that, Frank.
They want you to be on OxyContin. They want you to be on painkillers. They want you to this. So,
sure.
All right, let's go to the phones. 515-244-0077. Hi, you're live in Mac's World. Who's this?
Hello?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. This is Bill.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
I'm good. We've talked before, and I heard you know, when you first started talking about this, I haven't read any of the articles, but I went through Chuck Colson's the program that he started, IFI.
Yeah.
And it was over in Newton. And I'm going to tell you what, if it hadn't have been for that program, I've been through, I don't know how many drug and alcohol rehabilitation centers that did absolutely nothing for me. I've been in prison, I don't know how many times, 5 at least. And if it wasn't for a faith-based program, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I would still be in prison listening to you.
Well, Bill, I'm familiar with that program. I went over and visited it. It was an area of light in the area of darkness over there in that prison. But when Vilsack went in there, didn't that thing get gutted?
They just completely took it out because I think they got some of their funding from the tobacco lawsuits, and they didn't want their money going there when it wasn't going anywhere else.
No, Bill, don't be a low information voter, Bill.
Okay, well,
the only thing it had to do with is taking God out of government.
Okay.
Yeah, the Democrats and the secularists, Bill, as I remember it, once Vilsack got in charge and they had control of much of the legislature, their angle, they didn't care that your success story. You had many others that went through that. I sat in for a day and I watched what was going on in those programs. there were a lot of success stories. Some of them came to our office at Consumer Credit afterwards, and we helped them with their finances. It was a very successful program, but the core of it was the God of the Bible, Jesus Christ. And with that, the darkness could not stand it, and it had to take it out when it had an opportunity. And that's what Lee Root and her minions would love to do with the faith-based recovery programs. And so I'm glad that you called in, because you're a perfect example of what we're talking about.
I became a statistic after 3 years. I think it was 3 years when you became a statistic on whether something works or not. And we went over to the legislature and we talked to them when they were getting ready to take it out. And I said, well, what would you rather me doing, praying for you or praying on you? Because that's basically what I would be doing had it not been for that program. I'd have been looking for a way to steal your money so I could go get more drugs. And they just didn't care.
And the cost shifting to the rest of us, Bill. I mean, the fact that the normal prison population that I walked through to get to the prison fellowship ministry of Chuck Colson's, those people, once they let out, for the most part, are going to offend. Their recidivism rates are sky high, but yours were dramatically low. And from a dollar and cent standpoint, it only made sense to keep that program going. But again, the fact that you bring the God of the Bible into the rest of our world was unacceptable to him. I'm very glad that you called in.
You sound like the guy who ran it. I don't know if I should say his name or not, but that guy was a genius, because he would talk about the same things, and he took care of my drug problem in one conversation. He said that the reason that I get high is because I got a hole in the middle of me that needs to be filled with something, and I fill it with drugs, alcohol, sex, everything else, instead of the Holy Spirit.
Exactly. Exactly. You could throw gambling in there too, Bill. I mean,
gambling,
yeah. You could throw all those things in.
The light came on, and it was like, oh, wow. And the drug problem was over, So it amazes me the way that they just will not.
Well,
that God and the Holy Spirit and Jesus takes care of all of these problems.
Well, and Bill, I appreciate you calling, but you know why they don't want it? Because they want to be your God. The government, the paid officials, the political figures, they want to be your God. They want to be the answer to all of your problems. So if they can remove God's integrity, he can't keep you sober, he can't keep you clean, he can't make you right, he can only make you wrong. That's the discussion. We'll be back.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
he had attempted suicide before.
All right, 10 minutes before the top of the hour. Salem Radio Network News, and then Hank Ask the Bible Answer Man. 1-888-ASK-HANK. It's a worldwide, around the globe live show. Hope you take the time to call in. Coming up on Thursday's show, very interesting. Frank's taking the day off, and Chris Roloff is going to debate Frank's position that there is not an eternal hell. That hell does not last for eternity like heaven does. Ryan Jorgensen from Harvest Bible Chapel disagrees with that and thinks there is an eternal hell. Well, Ryan and Frank tried to have that conversation, and it was like
oil and water.
Oil and water. That's good. That's good. Because Ryan's a very nice, considerate young man who knows how to debate. And then there's Frank. So Chris is going to fill in for him that day. And
he's going to debate my points.
He's going to debate your points, and I'm sure you'll be texting him back and forth and firing back, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, I might even let you text in and let Bob read the text that he thinks apply.
I'll be doing some work on Thursday.
All right, so there's been this 3-day series in the paper about the Register about that faith-based treatment centers don't work. Can you and I, the listener, just talk for a minute? Right? You know who I am. I'm Mac. Mac's World Live. Goes back. I'm an alcoholic. Now, today's an interesting day to talk about this because I haven't had a drink for 2,193 days. 2,193 days. Why do I know that? Well, I'd like to tell you that I keep track, but I have an app. But in my program, it's one day at a time. I just need to get to bed tonight without taking a drink. Because I never drank in the morning. I never drank at noon. I didn't do that. My deal was get home at night, can't sleep, drink. Go to bed, wake up. I could wake up at 3 in the morning, and I had no desire to drink. But at night, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, I just want to drink because I want to go to sleep. I don't sleep well, never have. So for 16 years, I drank gin. And it wasn't so bad in the beginning, but eventually it took its toll on every single family member, my business, my driving record, my insurance rates, and most importantly, my identity, because I didn't have an identity in Jesus. I had an identity kind of like Bill was saying. I wanted drugs to fill my hole. I wanted alcohol to fill my hole. I wanted other things to fill my hole. I was never into gambling. And the only reason I wasn't into gambling is Tom Coates would have kicked my butt. So I probably could have tried some other things. But on a date, on this date in 2010, okay, it was the week after Palm Sunday. And I just decided that I needed to surrender to this guy called Jesus that I didn't really know anything about. Oh, I knew God. I knew God very well. God and I were like this. We were very close. And when somebody would say to me, well, what about that Bible verse that nobody gets to the Father but through me? I'd get a little pushy because I'd get a little convicted. And I'd say, I don't need no stinking Jesus. Yes, I said that. I blasphemed the Lord so often that I'm sure he got tired of making marks on the whiteboard. But I did. I was destined to a life in hell. I didn't know that. I thought God and I were just fine. What do I need with the kid if I've got the Father, right? But somebody very, very smart told me around the 10th of May, 2010, that if I would just give that alcoholism, and I'd give J. Michael McCoy, and I'd give anything and everything that was important to me, my wife, my kids, my family, my businesses, my life, I think I said that he could heal me. I thought it was bunk, but I was desperate. Desperate. I had to figure this out. And so on the 10th of May, 2010, exactly 6 years ago today, I gave my life to Jesus. I surrendered my life. I died to self. And I said, Jesus, if there's anything you can do, I just do it for me. Now, I'd like to tell you that the desire to drink or the idea of drinking just poof, magically went away from me and I never wanted another drink. That's not it at all. But for that day, I think it was a Monday. That Monday, I didn't drink. Now, I can tell you I was up all night. I didn't sleep, but I didn't drink. And I got up in the morning, and I came to work, and I did my show. And that night when I got home, I said, Jesus, can you help me do it 2 days in a row? And his reaction, his action, his message back to me was, just come with me. All that are heavy laden, and I will refresh you. Matthew, he said, come to me. I know you're hurt, and we can do this. So I don't need to reach far to find an example of someone who can debunk the registers. I mean, God bless them for trying, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why people want to eliminate God. They must be such narcissists that they can't stand the idea that somebody worships somebody other than themselves. But I'm telling you, you turn your life over to Christ, and amazing things will happen. And getting rid of my alcohol, well, I didn't get rid of my alcoholism. Stopping drinking every day, was just one of the things I've gotten in 6 years. I could go on and on and on about the incredible blessings that have come into my life because I accepted Jesus. I turned my life over to him, and I said, please, I don't want to drink tonight. Can you do it for me today? Can you do it for me one more day, Jesus? One more day, and today is day 2193. So, Lee, Rude, I imagine you're an amazing journalist, but you're wrong. Why don't you talk to me? Why don't you talk to somebody on the other side of this who can say, well, but here's the exception.
Well, Tom, what was the most disturbing thing you thought, Lee? I got to read a couple of the articles a little bit during the breaks. What was the most disturbing thing in your mind that you think she said or implied?
Well, the implication was that all these faith-based programs are built on myth. There was a barely muted disdain for their reliance on the very thing that Mac just gave eloquent testimony to, that God is out there, that there is a God. I do not believe, from what I have seen, again, firsthand, that she and others of her ilk even subscribe to the idea that there is a God. They think that those that believe and put their faith in God, of the Bible, of Jesus, are just superstitious ignoramuses, and that they are the enlightened ones. Now, I do think that it also comes back to she wants the government to be responsible for everybody in all aspects, which comes back to Obama and his people. They want the government from cradle to grave to be your God.
And did she say that she tried to blame the suicide attempt on this program?
Oh, yes.
Or the detox part of it?
Oh, yes. Very much so.
Well, we will continue to talk about this as the week goes on. It's kind of interesting that this happened the week that I would celebrate a sobriety birthday. And sobriety birthdays are a big deal. They're really more important than what we call belly button birthdays, because this is when I surrendered my life and Christ came into my life, and it's because of him and his Papa and that Holy Spirit that I'm sitting before you today. So, Lee Root, if you're listening, would you interview me, please, so I can give you the other side of the story? Okay, we're coming back. I'll see you tomorrow, live on The Truth.